Think about this for a second. May 19th, 2026. Arsenal aren't even on the pitch that night. Hundreds of miles away, Manchester City are being held by Bournemouth 1-1. And right there, in the most unexpected way possible, a 22-year story comes to an end. 8,060 days. That's so long that an entire generation of Arsenal fans was born, grew up, went to university, and never once saw their club become champions. And now, in the quietest, strangest way imaginable, no stadium roaring, no final whistle, it's finally over. This is the story of how Arsenal came back from the wilderness, fell short 3 times in a row, and finally got it done. But to understand the real weight of this moment, we have to go back a little. Back to where it all began, and where, for a long time, people thought it had ended. Let's go to May 2004. Wenger's Arsenal did what most thought was impossible that season. They played 38 matches and lost none of them. 26 wins, 12 draws, defeats, 0. The squad that walked onto the pitch was a legend on its own. Henry, Vieira, Bergkamp, Pires, a perfect mix of French finesse and English fighting spirit. Henry alone scored 30 league goals that season. Arsenal didn't just win the title. They were given a special gold Premier League trophy to mark an achievement no one has matched in over 20 years. That summer, Arsenal's future looked bright. Wenger was at the peak of his career. A brand new stadium was on the way, and nothing seemed capable of stopping them. And then, everything started to change. The reason was one single thing: the Emirates. In 2006, Arsenal left their historic home at Highbury and moved into a new £390 million stadium, meant to turn them into one of the giants of European football. But the cost was heavy. The debt restricted transfers for years. The board called it a self-sustaining model. The fans simply read it as the stars are leaving, and they were right. And one by one, they left. Fabregas to Barcelona, Van Persie to Manchester United, Nasri to Manchester City. Every transfer was its own wound for Arsenal supporters. Meanwhile, Roman Abramovich Chelsea, and then Sheikh Mansour's Manchester City completely redrew the financial map of English football. Arsenal couldn't keep up. Wenger held on through years of finishing 3rd or 4th, watching others lift the trophy he once won himself. By 2018, the patience had run out. The man who had transformed Arsenal into a modern club, Wenger, said goodbye after 22 years in charge. He left behind a club that had drifted from its identity and a fan base whose patience was nearly gone. Wenger leaving could have been a fresh start, but it wasn't. The opposite happened. Things got even worse. The Spanish manager Unai Emery, who had won 3 consecutive UEFA Europa Leagues with Sevilla, arrived with high hopes. But a year later in Baku, everything collapsed. Arsenal lost the 2019 Europa League final 4-1 to Chelsea. Beyond the scoreline, that night was the picture of how much the club had shrunk. In November 2019, Emery was dismissed. Club legend Freddie Ljungberg stepped in as caretaker, but he couldn't stop the slide. Arsenal sat in 10th place, missing out on European football for the first time in 25 years. The squad looked lost. The project lacked direction. And in December 2019, Arsenal made a brave, perhaps a desperate decision. They turned to a former captain who had never managed a senior team in his life, Mikel Arteta, 37 years old, Pep Guardiola's assistant at Manchester City. Back then, everyone was skeptical. It was risky. It was a bold move. For some, maybe too bold. But as the years passed, it became clear. This decision would change Arsenal's destiny. Arteta didn't start with tactics. He went after something much more fundamental first: the club's culture. He demanded the kind of standards the club had quietly let slip for years: punctuality, discipline, attention to detail. And the results came surprisingly fast. just 5 months into his reign, in that strange post-COVID period when football returned to empty stadiums. Arteta won the 2020 FA Cup with Arsenal, beating both Manchester City and Chelsea along the way. A small trophy, a big message. But the real rebuild was slower and harder. Senior players were moved on. A new spine was carefully constructed. William Saliba in defense, Martin Odegaard as the captain in midfield, Bukayo Saka as the homegrown star on the wing, and the board believed in the vision. In the summer of 2023 alone, more than £200 million was spent on Rice, Havertz, and Timber. But this wasn't reckless spending. Every signing was under 30. Every signing fit a clear, defined identity. And step by step, season by season, Arsenal started to look like a familiar club again. But football, no matter how carefully you plan, always makes you pay a price. In the 2022-23 season, Arsenal spent 232 days at the top of the league, the all-time record for any team that didn't go on to win the title. In January, they led by 8 points. And then Manchester City closed in with the instincts of true champions, caught up and took the title away. 3 steps, 1 outcome. The next season, 2023-24, Arsenal won 28 league games, their highest total in the Premier League era, and still finished second, 2 points behind City. Then, in 2024-25, with their new manager Arne Slot, Liverpool ran away with the trophy, and Arsenal finished second yet again. 3 consecutive seasons, 3 consecutive disappointments. And every time, the pain grew a little bigger. The criticism grew louder. Bottlers, specialists in second place. Pundits openly questioned whether Arteta would ever get over the line. But behind closed doors, in the dressing room, a different voice was heard. Captain Odegaard kept repeating the same line to his teammates over and over again. "We are closer than people think." Finally, that season came, 2025-26. And this time, Arsenal didn't win with flashy football. They won with quiet dominance, and the missing pieces were added in the summer of 2025. £260 million was invested in 4 new names: Zubimendi, Eze, Madueke, and Gyökeres. The numbers across the season tell the whole story. 25 wins, only 5 defeats. Just 26 goals conceded, the fewest in the league. 19 clean sheets, the most. 8 1-0 wins, also the most. And there was one more detail: set pieces. Arsenal were one of the most dangerous set-piece teams in the entire history of the Premier League this season. They scored 24 goals from corners and free kicks alone, and one single detail captured the club's new identity perfectly. 15-year-old academy product Max Daumann became the youngest player ever to win a Premier League title. When that result came in from Bournemouth, Declan Rice picked up his phone, posted a photo with his teammates, and wrote just one word: done. This time it wasn't hope. This time it was real. Arsenal's story isn't just the story of one club. It's also proof that even from the darkest day, a comeback is possible in football. A team that finished 10th in 2019, directionless and without hope. 6 years later, Premier League champions and Champions League finalists. This wasn't an easy comeback. Let me confess something. While preparing this video, the thing that impressed me the most was just how bold the decision to bring in Arteta in December 2019 actually was. Back then, nobody believed in it. Looking at it today, it was one of the most courageous and correct decisions in modern football. So the only thing I'm curious about now is this. Where do you stand in this story? Is this Arsenal, the beginning of the club's golden era, or just a brief flash of brilliance? Can they take down PSG in Budapest and become kings of Europe too? Write honestly in the comments. What do you really feel for Arsenal? I'll read all of them.